Welcome to Improve Your English Writing, video number 75, which is on selected word usage. This video is going to cover the word usage of 8 word pairs. The book has 20 word pairs. I'm going to cover 8 word pairs. And the word pairs I'm going to cover are the usage of the words and versus an, affect versus effect, among versus between, amount versus number, continual versus continuous, less versus few, neither versus nor, or neither and nor, and who versus whom. So even though this is actually like 16 words, or the usage of 16 words, so you can imagine the book actually has 40 words, but I'm going to cover them and discuss them in pairs. So if you'd like to get notifications for this series, please click subscribe. If you like the video or you think others will find it useful, please click like. And check out links to videos and books in the description, like a link to the companion volume here. So let's discuss the words a and an. So you use a or before a word beginning with a consonant or a long U sound. Most people would just say you use the word a before a consonant. It's not 100% true. Actually, you use a before a long U sound. So a dog, a girl, a unit, a U.S. law. And you use the word an before a beginning with a vowel sound, which is where most people probably will just generally say what the rule is, but it's actually except long U. So it's an assignment, an effect, an hour. So this H is actually silent here. So it's like OUR, an hour, and an IBM product. So that's the difference between using a and an. A is before a word beginning with a consonant or a long U, and an is before a word beginning with a vowel sound except long U. So what about the words affect and effect? Well, affect is a verb, often meaning to influence or change. This is how I actually think of it. I always think of most cases, if you're talking about a verb, it's probably affect. It's not always true, because it can also be a verb which also means to pretend in feeling or manner. So it's not the most common usage of the word. So like, once again, affect is often used to mean influence or change. And it can mean this. It's not the most common meaning. It can also, in psychology, affect is also a noun meaning feeling or emotion. So, but this is, once again, this is mostly used in psychology. So most of the time when you use affect, you're probably going to be using it as a verb form, meaning to influence or change. And effect is a noun, often meaning result or outcome. So this is how I memorize it. So most of the time if you can't remember it's affect or effect, more than likely if it's a verb, it's affect, and if it's a noun, it's effect. Not always true, but if you base it upon the most common meanings people are using, this is how it would result. But just so you know, effect is a noun, often meaning result or outcome. It's also used as a verb, it means to cause, or to cause or to bring about. So just, it's not always true, but that's a helpful way that I memorize it. So what about the difference between among and between? So between is used when referring to only two people or things. So you have to have two, they use between. So you have between Maria and Josh, because you have two here, Maria and Josh. Between managers and employees, so you only have two things, managers and employees. So there has to be two, which means you use among when you're referring to more than two people or things. So you have among 5 clients, you also have more than 2. Among the students, now this is just a generic plural, and it's probably more than 2. If you knew there were only 2 students by context, you'd use between the students. So, but more often, students, there's probably more than 2 students. So you probably write it as among. And then continual and continuous. Continuous means uninterrupted, like a continuous line. And continual means steady repetition, continual improvement. Just so you know, you probably cannot have continuous improvement, even though you probably see it written that way. And that's my last comment here, is that the adverb continuously is used when continually should be used. So you see this, most people don't know the difference between continuous and continual, and they use continuously when they really mean continually. Amount and number. Well, amount is used with mass nouns. What's a mass noun? I'm going to get to that. And number is used with count nouns. So that's good. Now that you know now that's clear as mud, you have to know the difference between a mass noun and a count noun. Well, a mass noun, or a count noun, let's start with the count nouns. A count noun is something that can be counted. And it usually has a plural form. Usually has a plural form. So, like you have 2 cars, you have 3 computers, you have 10 keys. It has a plural form by adding s. So if you can count it, you can actually count it 1, 2, 3, 4. And it usually has a plural ending in s, usually. Mass noun is something that cannot be counted. And usually, not always, usually has no plural form. So garbage. You don't say garbages. You don't say that. You don't really say traffics. You could say monies. That's what I'm saying. It usually has no plural. So traffics doesn't make sense, and garbages doesn't make sense. So garbage is a mass noun. So therefore, garbage is a mass noun. So you'd use amount. There's a large amount of garbage. You'd not say there's a large number of garbage. But you would say there is a large number of computers, because you can count computers. Hopefully that makes sense. So you use amount with mass nouns and number with count nouns. What about less and fewer? Well, you use less with mass nouns, like less garbage, and use fewer with count nouns, like fewer keys. So that's why I explained this, and this is why, if you've been noticing, I've actually been taking these in alphabetical order of these word pairs, but this is the one that's out of order, just because they both have to do with mass and count nouns. So there you go. So less with mass nouns, fewer with count nouns. What about neither nor? Well, both neither and nor negate alternatives. Neither steak nor crab is on the menu, so it's negating steak or crab. So it negates the alternatives. No steak, no crab is on the menu, and it negates it. Just another example, neither snow nor rain nor heat will prevent. I just said a mail carrier. There's a whole expression I'm probably not writing there. But this is just an example of using neither nor, and it negates the alternatives. Typically, when you write neither nor, there are only 2 alternatives, neither steak nor crab. This is probably the most famous one that has 3. But most of the time when you write it, it's only going to have 2. The alternative should be parallel in form. If you're not too sure what parallelism is, go watch video 16. So alternatives, here you have 2 nouns. The alternative should be parallel in form. And the verb agrees with the alternative next to the last nor. So like in this example up here, this will prevent actually agrees with heat. So it's going to agree. So if this was plural or singular, so the verb agrees in number with the one next to the last nor. So in this case right here, it's going to agree with heat. This first one is going to agree in number with crab. And I want to say this is very, that's the bullet item. This is basically, this is the same as subjects joined by or, the word or. And that's, if you're not too sure about that, I'd have a further discussion about that in video number 25. So the last one, who or whom. Save the best for last. Use who for the subject of a sentence. Who drove the car? Use whom with or for the object of a sentence, or with an object of a preposition. Whom should we test? Because the whom, because we right here is actually the subject here. We should test whom. If you think about it that way, whom should we test? So since this is the object of the sentence, it is whom. And I could not figure out from whom the article quoted. So here you have the object of a preposition, from whom. So if it's the object of a preposition, you use whom. Well, that's great because, but the problem is, if I got that explanation, I may not fully understand, or like, well, I still don't understand or can't determine when it's who or whom. So this is the crux of it, or how to help you decide, is it who or whom, besides just having to know as a subject or object, because maybe you're saying, I can't really figure that out by the sentence. Well, the best way to decide, or the help you determine to use who or whom, is to replace it with a pronoun. So replace it with the pronouns. One of these four pronouns should work. He, she, him, or her. You should be able to substitute the who or whom in question with one of these pronouns, and from which pronoun you'll be able to determine if it's who or whom. If he or she sounds better, use who, because he or she is basically, these are nominative case, or basically they're the subject case for a sentence, he or she. If him or her sound better, use whom, because these are used in a sentence for when they're the object, which is the case here. Remember, these are both, whom is used with an object. So him or her, because most people they know when to use he, she, him, and her. So if you can use, if him or her sound better, use whom. So let's do this in a trial sentence. This is actually a sentence from the book. She is the one who, or is it whom, will win the election? Is it she's the one who will win the election, or is it she's the one whom will win the election? Which one is it? Well, we're just going to go substitute which pronoun sounds best. Is it, it's rather she or her, because we have she here, so we know it's going to be, a she or her. She is the one, she will win the election? Or is it she is the one, her will win the election? Well, it's the first one I did. It's she is the one, she will win the election sounds the best. She sounds better in this sentence right here. So since we know it's she, or because she sounds better, and this is the subject case, then we know it's who. So therefore, we can just replace it with who. She is the one who will win the election, and that is the correct choice between who or whom. So this is a nice way. Instead of thinking, is it subject or object? So just replace it with a pronoun if you're not too sure. And based upon that pronoun, you will know if it's who or whom. So that's it for this video. If you want to get notifications for this series, please click subscribe. If you like the video, please hit like, and check out links to books and videos in the description.